We're going to begin really tonight a in-depth look at the doubts and the statements and the questions that are thrown out by skeptics toward religion in general and specifically Christianity as we get to the end. Now remember, every doubt is a faith claim. Remember that. Every doubt is a faith claim. If someone says to me, Neil, I don't believe your belief A, the reason why they don't believe my belief A is because they believe their belief B. So their belief is the reason why they can't believe my belief. And almost every time, that belief that they have can't be scientifically proven. They have this internal worldview, we're going to talk about that tonight, this worldview they have created that does not allow them to believe in what you are believing in. So every single faith claim is in fact, every doubt that they make is in fact a leap of faith. Every doubt is a leap of faith. So let's begin dealing with these doubts, and let's ask questions of these doubts. Let's wrestle through these doubts, and let's find out whether or not these doubts, hey guys, whether or not these doubts are reasonable or not. Let's see whether or not these doubts are logical or not. The first doubt I want us to deal with, it's all we're going to deal with tonight, is this question, or this statement that people make. There can't be just one true religion. Okay? That is a statement that you will hear over and over and over again from the skeptics, from the atheists, from the non-believing world. They basically say there can't be just one true religion. When you ask skeptics, what are your issues with religion? What are your issues with religion? Do you know what comes up almost every single time first? Exclusivity. The idea that you guys have the answer and you're right and nobody else is. Skeptics have a problem with that kind of exclusivity. They don't like the fact that a religion would say, we have the truth and no one else has the truth, so you need to believe what we're believing. But isn't that the very claim Jesus made? Did Jesus not say, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That's very exclusive, is it not? You cannot have a relationship with God the Father, according to Jesus, unless it comes through Him. So it is exclusive. They don't have that wrong. Skeptics have that right. Christianity, as well as other religions, by the way, are exclusive. They are exclusive. And people say, well, what happens is because you're exclusive, you won't deal with world peace. You won't handle world peace. You're going to cause barriers to be risen up in regards to world peace. In short, religion is the greatest barrier to world peace. Because if you think you have all the answers right, Christians, and nobody else does, then we're never going to be able to have peace with one another because you guys are going to lord it over everybody else that you're right and everybody else is wrong. Now, we need to be honest here. We need to be honest. And we need to say that, generally speaking, religion, generally speaking, is a major barrier to world peace. Is that not true? Generally speaking, religion is a barrier to world peace. And we just need to come right out front and say that and admit that and get that out on the table right now. Because each major religion claims they have the truth. This can cause people to feel superior over other people. I've got the truth, you don't have the truth, therefore I'm superior over you. It can also cause people to separate from people that they don't believe have the truth. And you know what often happens when separation takes place? So put these two things together. I'm superior over you because you don't have the truth, and I'm separating myself from you because you don't have the truth, guess what comes next? Oppression. Right? I'm superior over you, now I'm separating myself from you, and what the easy next step is for that group to oppress other people. Very easy. And throughout history, it has happened. It is simply a fact. It is a historical fact that religion has oppressed and abused people. Once this is recognized, you know what civic leaders do? They say, well, then we got to do something about religion. All right? They want to come up with a way to make religion not fruitful within a society, because in their minds, if religion is popular, then what we're going to have is barriers to world peace. In their minds, they're thinking, if religion is popular, then we have no chance to have world peace. And so what they do is civic leaders and cultural leaders, they begin in different ways trying to stop the divisiveness of a religion. Let's look at some of the ways they think they should stop religion. And let's see if those ways they think they're going to stifle religion, let's see if they're actually logical and reasonable or not. And let me just say this, none of them are effective. Okay? All the ways that we're going to go through here, we're going to go through 3 of them, none of them are effective. And in fact, many times they just make things worse. So, you with me so far? There can't be just one true religion. And that attitude by religious people causes separation, superiority, oppression. It just ruins any kind of unity that the world may try to have because of religion. So therefore, we need to push religion down. We need to minimize religion. And here's how we're going to do it. Number 1, outlaw religion. If you have your notes, that's obviously number 1. Oh my heavens. Outlaw religion. They try to control it or flat out forbid it. They just absolutely flat out try to forbid it. And usually with a heavy hand, right? Now we have seen this in the last 100 years. Okay, many of you have seen this in your lifetime. Soviet Russia, Nazi Germany. They were determined to tightly control religion in order to prevent them from dividing the power of the state. The problem is, if religion is powerful, then the state's not. So we want to unify everybody around a secular idea rather than a religious idea, because religion will taint everything and walls will come up. And so regimes, whether it's the Nazi regime or whether it was the Soviet communist Russia, they say, we're going to take the secular idea, we want everybody to get around the secular idea, so what we've got to do is we've got to push down the religious idea. This is happening in China right now. In China right now, because Christianity is growing leaps and bounds in China, there is an attempt to stop religious activity in China. Again, why? Because they want to surround everything around the secular, not the sacred. I told you, I don't know if I told you last week, I think I did, that they are now telling everyone in China to take down any pictures of Jesus Christ and replace them with their supreme leader. Mm-hmm. Again, why? Because we want everybody to surround the secular. Because religion is bad. Religion is going to cause divisiveness. Now, let me ask you a question. In those 3 instances, in the current China, Soviet Union, Nazi, did that cause more freedom or more oppression? More oppression. So the idea to outlaw religion didn't work. It doesn't work. As we talked about last week, religion in general, and Christianity specifically, is growing all around the world. It's not decreasing. It's not going away. Remember, we went through the sociologist who talked about, 60 years ago, that when we got to this point, they thought religion would be this far, far less important thing in people's lives, because after all, science is going to grow, and as science grows, religion will fade away, and we found that they were completely wrong. Religion has not gone anywhere. Science has grown, the secular has grown, and so has the religious. What's happened is the middle is disappearing. All the efforts to control religion and suppress religion has only caused it to grow. Think about it. The fastest growing group of Christians in the world is China. And China is doing everything they can to stop religion. It doesn't work. After World War II, China expelled Western missionaries. Did you know that? They took all the Western missionaries and they sent them out because they thought, we're gonna surround our unity around the secular. They thought that they were going to kill off Christianity in China by getting rid of the Western missionaries. Did that work? No. Backfired on them. Here's what happened. You said, if somebody asked me, what is one of the reasons why you think growth of Christianity in China is so fruitful right now? One of the things, obviously, work of the Holy Spirit, sovereignty of God, obviously. But the means by which. Well, here's what happened. After World War II, all of the Western missionaries in China were kicked out. Who took their place? Chinese leadership. And because Chinese Christians stepped up in their own culture, they had a bigger influence in the Chinese culture than the Westerners could have in that culture. So by kicking the Western missionaries out, all they did was cause Christianity to grow. Because the Chinese Christians stepped up. Many skeptics say that religion is simply a temporary thing. It helped us adapt at certain times. Adapt to our environment. And that once we adapt to our environment, it's no longer needed. I can't tell you, every single secular book I read, that comes up. Religion is simply a evolutionary idea that we need in order to adapt to an environment, and eventually it goes away. But it never happens. It never goes away. What we are finding out, instead of religion being temporary, religion is a permanent thing. It is a central aspect of the human condition. We are spiritual beings, and we want to connect to the spiritual, and there's no reason to think that will ever change. So all the outlawing and trying to control religion with a heavy hand, as in Soviet Union, China, Nazi Germany, it doesn't work. Because they think, our people don't need this anymore. We need to get rid of that and grab onto something else that'll unify us. The problem is that we are made in the image of God. And human beings by nature, want to connect to something bigger than themselves. We want to connect to something bigger than ourselves. Something that is spiritual. Second, this is the one we'll spend the most time on. Second, condemn religion. So, if we can't outlaw it, then let's just condemn it. Here's what I mean by that. Through education, through argument, through other means, we want to find ways to discourage religions that claim to have the exclusive truth. So we're not gonna outlaw it, right? We're not going to use the government to get rid of it. But what we're going to do is through education and through argumentation and the proving and showing that it's silliness, we want to cause religion to become nothing and to go away. All those religions that claim to have the exclusive truth, we want to destroy them with these axioms, these statements, these belief statements, all right? Which they think if we use them enough, then they will become the common sense of the society. All right? So they try to get people who are in a religious society to shrink away from exclusive claims and admit that every religion is a valid path to God. All right? Now tell me we're not experiencing that in our culture right now.
Absolutely.
Okay? Religion itself, listen, those that are trying to force this upon us, they know that, well, they somewhat know that using the government to try to stop this is not going to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to use society in general, and we're going to come up with these principles, these statements, these axioms, and we're going to repeat them over and over and over again. And we're going to argue them in the universities and in the schools and in the public square. And we're going to make people buy into these statements that they basically become common sense. They become the religion of the society that stops all of these major exclusive religions from speaking out and having any kind of effect whatsoever. Basically, they're going to say that your exclusive belief is just not very enlightened. You're just not very enlightened. We've moved past your exclusive religion stuff. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I gave you 4. There's more, but I gave you 4. 4 of these exclusive statements or principles of belief that they say. Here's the first one. And we're gonna see the hypocrisy in each one of them. All right? The logical hypocrisy in each one of them. Here's one of them. All religions are equally valid and basically teach the same things and all lead to the same place. All right? Listen. I hear this all the time. I hear it on news programs. I see it in magazine articles, internet articles, and blog. I see this kind of language all the time. All of our religions basically teach the same thing, and all of them are equally valid, and they lead to the same place. See, if we can believe that, then there's no room for exclusivity. Let me ask you a question. Do we really want this? Do we want a culture that says the branch Davidians in Waco? Some of y'all might be too young to remember that. Look at y'all. Look at you. Do we really want a culture that says the branch Davidians are equal to Orthodox Christianity? Do we want a society that says religions that require child sacrifice are not inferior to any other faith? I hope not. I hope that's not what we're saying. But see, when you make a statement like that, well, then let's deal with it. Is that what you're saying? Are you saying the branch Davidians and everything that went on with David Koresh in Waco, are you saying that is just as valid as any other religion? I hope not. Not even the major religions of the world are equal because they have such radical differences in their view. The statement on its face is false when they say they're basically all equally valid because they all believe kind of the same thing. They kind of all believe the same thing. Do you know that Buddhism doesn't believe in a personal God? They don't believe in a personal God that can hold people accountable for their beliefs. And they certainly don't have attributes to that God that they would call all-loving. But then you look at Christianity and you say, well, we do have a personal God that has a personal relationship and that holds people personally responsible for the beliefs that they hold. So which one's right? I mean, you have two very different views of God. I'll never forget, I was reading a book on Islam once, and they were having a debate. They were talking about this debate that was going on. And the Christians in the room kept standing up and saying, I don't understand why you're arguing that Christianity is so different than Islam. Don't Islam and Christianity worship the same God? And the converted Christian who used to be a Muslim simply said, let me ask the Muslims in this room, do we worship the same God? And they immediately said, no, we do not. A man, in fact, stood up in the back and said, no, we do not. So the Muslims don't believe that Christians and Muslims are worshiping the same God. Buddha doesn't have a personal God. Hinduism doesn't have this other spiritual realm like we do. You know, we think about another spiritual realm. They believe all the spiritual is in the physical. So, then what do we do? Like, how can we say they're equally valid when there is such a difference between all the things that we're labeling? And now, let me say this. This is a very arrogant statement. Okay? So people could come up to me and they could say, Neil, you are so exclusive. You think Jesus Christ is the only way. And you think that if I don't believe what you believe, then I'm going to die and go to hell. That is so exclusive and arrogant. And I could turn around and I could say, because they could say, all religions are equal and they're going to the same place. They're all leading to the same place. You know what my response would be? That's an arrogant statement you just made. Mm-hmm. Let me explain why. The only way that one could know that all religions are valid and heading the same way is to say that you know where they all lead because you have the ultimate truth. So think about it. If I say, no, there's only one way, and this other person says, no, all religions lead the same way. They're all leading to the same path. The only way he could see that is if he sees everything. Let me give you an example. So let's say that a man is standing at the bottom of a mountain, and he sees all these roads on the mountain. And he says, you know what? All those roads are leading to the same place. The only way he could say that is if he is on top of the mountain and sees where every one of them ends. Right? You can't say that from down at the bottom of the mountain. You can guess. Alright? That's called a belief. Right? You can guess that they're all leading to the same place, but the only way you can know they're leading to the same place is if you are at the top of the mountain looking down on all the roads and you say, I know that all these roads lead here. Now the problem is, that's a very arrogant statement. If you say that you know for a fact that all the religions lead to the same place, you are so arrogant. That means you believe you have the ultimate truth and you can see where they all lead. So you see what happens? Their own statement turns on itself. Because they're saying, listen, you can't say you have the only way. And then you turn around and say, well, you're the one who's saying that you're at the top of the hill and you see where everything's leading. Very exclusive of you to say that. So to say that you know all religions are the same and lead to the same place is to say that you have the complete picture. You are at the top of the hill yourself. So the person who believes this does the very thing they forbid other people from doing. Any questions about that? You got that? The very thing they're telling people not to do, they are doing it themselves. Here's the second one. Each religion sees part of the spiritual truth, but none sees the whole. In other words, every religion gets part of God right. Christianity, you get part of it right the way you express it. In Buddhism, you get part of it right. And Hinduism, you get part of it right. In Judaism, you get part of it right. And Islam, you get part of it right. But none of you get it all right. To illustrate this, many times I've read this in multiple times before. They use the illustration of the elephant. Let's say you have 4 blind men. Okay? And one of them is holding the trunk of an elephant, one of them is holding the tusk of an elephant, one of them is holding the leg of an elephant, and one of them is holding the tail of the elephant. They're blind and they cannot see. And you say to these 4 men, you are all holding an elephant. And you ask the first person who's holding the tail, what is an elephant like? They're going to say, well, it's skinny, it's flexible, and it smells bad. Then you ask the guy who's holding the leg, oh man, an elephant's not skinny, an elephant is thick and strong and it's just muscle, nothing but muscle. Then you ask the person holding the tusk, it's not flexible at all. It's hard as a rock. It feels like a rock and no, there's no flexibility to it at all and it's pointy at the end. Then you ask the one who's holding the trunk, no, you're wrong, guys, it's really, really long and it's not pointy, it's very, very flexible. Now, what the skeptics say is they say that's how religion is. Religion has part of the truth, but none of them have the whole picture. Here's the problem with using that story. Who is the only person that has the whole picture? God. Someone, well, God, obviously. Someone who's not blind. Right? The only way that I could say to the man holding the tail, you only got part of it. The guy holding the leg, you've only got part of it. The guy holding the tusk, you only got part of it. The guy holding the trunk, you only got part of it. The only way I could say that to all of them is if I'm not blind and I see the whole elephant. So think about the people that are saying this. They're saying, oh, you religions, y'all don't have the full picture. What are they saying? I do. I've got the full picture. That's very exclusive of you. What a hypocritical, arrogant thing to say. You've got the whole picture, but I don't. Isn't that the very thing that all the religions are stating? So again, it turns on itself. It has the appearance of humility, but it's actually prideful at its core. You could not possibly know that no religion can see the whole truth unless you yourself had the superior comprehensive knowledge that nobody else has. Here's another one. Religious belief is too culturally and historically conditioned to be truth. Religious belief is too culturally and historically conditioned to be truth. This statement basically tries to make the case that we are all culturally biased. Okay? Because of the context in which we have lived our lives, that context and that culture has made us bias anytime we're trying to weigh competing things. So if you give me belief A and belief B, and you say which one is true, the problem is that I can never view those objectively because I have a culture that has influenced me to believe one or the other. They may say something like this: if you were born in Morocco, you'd be a Muslim, not a Christian. So how can you say, we call these people populist? They basically say that, I'm sorry, not true. Pluralist. They basically say all of us, okay, all these religions don't have it all right, and your culture has developed what you're going to believe and how you're going to believe it. So Christians, you can't weigh whether Islam or American Christians, you can't weigh whether Islam or Christianity is true because you've been too culturally programmed to believe Islam is wrong and Christianity is true. So you can't view those two things objectively. You know what my response to that person would be? I would say, where were you raised? I was raised in America. And what would you be if you were in Morocco? Well, I'd be a Muslim. Oh, not an atheist? You wouldn't be an atheist? You wouldn't be a populist if you were in Morocco. So your very statement, an idea that is culturally influenced, is culturally influenced. The fact that you come from America and you believe that no religion has all of the truth is influenced by the culture in which you were living. If you were born in Morocco, you wouldn't be saying that. You'd be a Muslim. So again, what happens is these statements that they're making to try to sound very inclusive are very exclusive. In other words, you Christians in America, you can't weigh things properly. But an atheist in America can. No, you can't. You've been influenced by the culture just like the Christians been influenced by the American culture. And if we were both born in Morocco, we'd both be Muslims outside the sovereignty of God. We'd both be Muslims. So on what basis are you even making that claim? And the claim falls apart. You can't say all claims about religions are historically conditioned, except the one I'm making right now. Can't say that. No, the one you're making right now is historically and culturally conditioned. And listen to this. This is very important. Everyone makes truth claims. Everyone. Everyone. And everyone has to do the hard work of deciding what's true and what's not. There is no such thing as an objective person. It does not exist. So everyone's going to make truth claims. I think I've told the story in here before about the time that I was at Half Price Books, and I was in the religion section. And I'm just minding my own business. I didn't come in there to proselytize. I came in there to go to the religious section and see if there's some good books on sale. So I'm there and I'm looking at a few things, and there's a man sitting down on a stool, and he's probably 55, 60 years old, and he's on the stool, and he's looking at books. He said, "Did you find anything?" And I said, "Yeah, I found one or two, books. I'm still browsing around." He goes, "Well, I just don't believe in any of this garbage." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And I said, "Well, why are you over here buying religious books then? If you don't believe in any of this, why are you in the religious section? He said, well, I'm buying something for my brother. And he went to seminary and stuff. I said, okay. He goes, you believe all this? I said, well, I'm a pastor of a Baptist church, so I'd hope so. And he was like, man, he said, there's just no way to prove what you Christians believe. And I said, well, it depends on what you mean by proof, and but I kind of understand what you're saying. I said, can I ask you a question? And he said, well, sure. I said, what is truth? Well, truth, and I said, well, hang on a second, sir. I said, because you're making a statement that what I believe is not true and you can't define truth. I said, that's a problem, don't you think? He said, well, nobody can know truth. And I said, okay, so you don't believe anybody has the truth. That we're all in error and none of us can know whether or not what we believe is true. He said, yeah. And I said, is that true? Well, yeah. I said, well, wait a minute, sir. You just said we can't know the truth, and then yet you just made a statement claiming truth. I said, you don't see the hypocrisy in that. You don't see the logical error in that. I said, is Christianity right? He said, no, it's not. I said, is that true? He said, well, you're just playing tricks now. I said, no, I'm not, sir. In your worldview, you said that we can't know truth. Then that means you have to stop talking like you know the truth. Here's the point. Nobody can do that. Because all of us make truth claims. I told him, I presented the gospel to him, and I told him to repent and turn to Jesus. And as I was walking away, he goes, what? I said, sir, we're not promised tomorrow. And as I'm walking away, and what was funny was, as we were talking, people started gathering around. And there were people on the other side, not in the religious section, at the other side, and they're like, looking through the hole there and stuff. And as I'm walking away, he said, well, I do know the sun's going to rise tomorrow. I said, you don't know that to be true, sir. And you can hear everybody start giggling. Now, I didn't do that to embarrass the man. I did that to show the logical fallacy of saying, you Christians think y'all have the truth. Nobody has the truth. Is that true? See, all of us make truth claims. You can't get around it. It is impossible. Lastly, it is arrogant to insist your religion is right and try to convert others to it. Once again, we have an inherent contradiction. If you think that my view is arrogant because I think I am exclusively right, that would make your statement exclusively right, and therefore you are arrogant. So if you say, Christian, you are arrogant if you think you have the truth, and you try to convert others to it, I would say, are you trying to convert me to that truth that you just said? If you are, then you're arrogant. See what happens with all of these ideas about religion? It is no more narrow to claim that one religion is right than to claim how we should think about all religions. If someone walks up to me and says, here's how you ought to think about all religions, that is an exclusive statement. Right? That is a statement based upon their exclusive belief. That is no more provable than when I say, no, Jesus is the only way. Here's what you have, guys. You're going to hear me say this a lot in this series. You have the God of Christianity or you have absurdity. And there's no other choices. You have the God of Christianity or you have absurdity. Every one of those statements that I just made to you, they're absurd. They don't even remotely try to prove what it is that they're stating. They don't see the contradictions in their own statements. They make them, and then those contradictions have to be pointed out to them because they don't even see that they're being exclusive and arrogant and claiming to have truth at the whole time telling you got to stop being exclusive and arrogant and quit believing you have the truth. Third way, so we have outlaw religion. Well, if that don't work, then what we're going to do is we're going to attack it from a cultural, we're going to argue, we're going to use these statements and drive them down people's throat. And you know what's funny is that I've encountered almost every one of those statements in conversations. And more. And What's hilarious is because I know that that's how our culture is brainwashing people, I know the arguments I'm going to get before I even talk to them. I'm like, all I got to be ready for is about 5 different things they're going to say. And what I want to do is I want to attack those statements for being absurd and hold them accountable to their own worldview. If they can't do that, then what they're going to say is, okay, we can't stop you guys from believing this exclusive stuff, then we just want you to keep it private. You can believe whatever you want to believe, just keep it out of the public square. They say that religious beliefs are to be kept private. They believe religious beliefs are conversation starters because non-believers can't engage in religious conversation. They say that because of that, then religion causes sectarianism. It causes us to break off in little groups where if we use reason, everybody's available to reason. But not everybody's available to religion. And so therefore, you should keep it in the privacy of your own heart. We have politicians saying this all the time, by the way. I personally am for this and against this, but I'm not going to have that affect any policy I push for. I'm just going to keep my religious beliefs private. Let's begin by addressing this question. What is religion? Some would say religion is simply what you believe about God. Well, that's a very surface level definition of what religion is. Religion is basically a set of beliefs that explain what life is all about, who we are, and the most important things that human beings should spend their time doing. Think about that. Religion basically says, here's what life's all about. Here's who we are, and here are the most important things that we ought to spend our time doing. You know what's another word for that? A worldview. A worldview. Here's what life's all about. Here's who we are, and here's what we ought to spend our time doing. That's called a worldview. Guess what every single person has in the world? A worldview. Every single person. It's impossible not to have a worldview. Everybody says, I know what life's all about. I know who we are. I know what we're supposed to spend our time doing. That's called a worldview. Everyone lives and operates out of their worldview. All who say, you should do this and you shouldn't do this, are reasoning out of their moral and religious conclusions. Okay? Let me give you some examples. I was watching a debate video once between Doug Wilson and the late Christopher Hitchens. My favorite atheist, by the way. Christopher Hitchens is my favorite atheist. If you want to listen to a funny atheist, Christopher Hitchens is the guy to go with. Brilliantly smart, clever, funny, and he's British. And when you're British, you're just funnier. I don't know what it is about British people, but they're just, I think maybe it is the accent. I don't know, they're funny. And Christopher Hitchens did a series of 3 debates with Doug Wilson. And Doug Wilson, throughout every debate, he kept arguing against Christopher Hitchens and asking the question, how do you account for morality? And he said, and at first Christopher Hitchens kept saying, well, I'm a very moral person. He said, I'm not saying you're not. You may be more moral than I am. I'm not talking about whether you are moral or not. I'm saying, how do you account for morality? In other words, when Christopher Hitchens writes a book that says God is not great, on what basis does he say that? Where is he turning to judge whether or not the God of Christianity is good or not good? Where does he get terms like good and evil and moral? Where is he coming up with this objective standard that he says the God of the Bible is not good? And Doug Wilson just kept hammering on it and hammering on it and hammering on it and hammering on it. And here's what I found out about Christopher Hitchens. He is a person that will say all the time, that's evil, we shouldn't believe this and we shouldn't do it. He has no problem saying that. Now, when Christopher Hitchens says that, guess what he is revealing? His worldview. And that worldview is based upon some moral absolute truths he believes. See, he wants religion privatized and pushed to the side and to not be in the public square. And he doesn't think that he wants to win it through argument. But he wants religion done away with. Guess what he wants to replace it with? His religion. His worldview. Do you know when we stopped teaching the Bible in schools because we're not allowed to teach religion inside of schools? Religion didn't get stopped being taught in schools. It got replaced with humanism. Another religion took its place. That's all that happened. Naturalism took its place. That's all that happened. Don't worry about the supernatural. There is no God that created everything. Nature is all there is and can explain everything. It just simply took its place. Let me give you a fake illustration. Actually, no. This is true of me. I was talking with a man once, trying to show him that he believes some moral things and can't defend them. And I said to him that I said, what if I tell you that I don't believe that we should take care of the poor? And he says, oh no, we should take care of the poor. You know, we ought to pass laws that take care of the poor, and we as individuals should take care of the poor. And I said, well, what about survival of the fittest? If you're poor and you're hungry and you can't provide for yourself, what about survival of the fittest? You just die off. We let you die off so that the superior people can continue to push evolution further. And he said, well, it's not a moral thing to just let them die off and starve to death. I said, well, wouldn't it be better for society for us not to have to take care of them anymore? Wouldn't it be a better thing for us to just... and he said this, well, what about their rights? What about their dignity? And I went, oh, so now you're using Christian words. Now you're using Christian words. You're borrowing from the Christian faith to tell me I should stop being a Christian. Human dignity, respect for one another. I said, where are you getting that from your worldview? Why in the world should I care about anybody if your worldview is true? If there is no God, and there is, if was it Lenin that wrote Imagine? That he wrote that? There is no heaven above, no hell below. If it's just sky, then what does it matter what I do? If I don't take care of the poor, who cares? What does it matter? And I was just trying to show him that his worldview could not account for these moral things that he was saying to me. And at the end of it, I said, man, you sound really religious. I thought we were supposed to keep our religion private. You see what happens? No one keeps their worldview private. Go today, turn on any news network when you get home. No one keeps their worldview private. Nobody. Even the people that are saying keep it private. The statement keeping religion private is a worldview that they are expressing in public. Everyone is exclusive. Everyone. I want to end with this. I said at the beginning that religion is a threat to world peace. However, with Christianity, I'm talking about real, orthodox, robust Christianity, Bible-believing, orthodox Christianity, there are resources inside of the belief system itself to check the idea of superiority and disrespect and not treating people with dignity. All right, I'm just going to give you two of them. There's more than this. I'm going to give you two. Number one, who is created in God's image? Man. Some men or all men? All men. All men. And because of that, because all men have been created in God's image, they are worthy of respect and dignity. I am pro-life from conception to the final breath. And everything in between. I am against racism because man is made in the image of God. I am against sexism because man is made in the image of God. All of these sexual assault things that are coming out, when you view women as objects to be used That's the kind of stuff that happens. But within the worldview of Christianity, within the belief system itself, there are things where we can condemn that thing based upon our worldview, based upon our belief system. We are all made in the image of God, and everyone deserves respect, even if you disagree with them. They're to be respected. They're to have dignity, even if you disagree with them. On some serious things, you ought to treat them a certain way because they're made in the image of God. You ought to love them because they're made in the image of God. So when people say, well, man, Christianity's done some horrible things. People have done some horrible things in the name of Christianity. Guess who are the first ones who should rise up and say, you better believe it? It's Christians. And what we should say is, the way that they're treating people is not because of Christianity, it's in spite of Christianity. Because here's what Christianity says. Let me give you another one. How are we saved? By grace through faith. What did I say this morning? You didn't lift a finger to get saved. You didn't lift a finger. You did nothing to be regenerated. Nothing. Therefore, because we have been saved by grace, who should be the most humble people on the planet? Christians ought to be. So when you see someone who is arrogant and prideful and lording their Christianity over other people, they're not doing it because of what the Bible teaches. They're doing it in spite of what the Bible teaches. So there are more than that, but those are just two. I don't know what to call them. But like two barriers or two guardrails that Orthodox Christianity has. Do you know how slavery was defeated in England? It was not defeated through a civil war. You know how it was defeated? Through the gospel. As people like William Wilberforce began screaming and yelling, we are not treating our image-bearing people with dignity and respect. Using biblical principles and the gospel of Jesus Christ to destroy slavery. We should be the most humble people on the planet. You're just as big of a sinner as anybody else that's ever walked the planet. I read stories of Israel in the Old Testament sacrificing their own children and eating their own children. And you know the only response you should have is, except for the grace of God, so go I. It's not because you're better. It's not because you're different. It's because of the grace of God. So you got to be humble. Treat people with respect and dignity and love. Jesus said that people should see our good works and glorify our Father. That means that Jesus believed when you live out Christianity, people are going to see that it's good. So that means that when people are oppressing people using Christianity, it's going against the very thing that Jesus said the good works are for. So, truth is that Christianity is the only religion that has those things built into it. It's the only religion that has those things built into it. That's why you have the God of Christianity or you have absurdity. Buffers, that's a good word. Buffers. So that when people claim that to be Christians and they're prideful and disrespectful, it is not because of Christianity, it is in spite of it. Now, we spent 50 minutes. This is just the first of the statements. There can't just be one true religion. I think we've seen tonight that that statement is absurd on its face. The only reason you're saying that is because you're believing a set of beliefs that you can't prove to then turn around and say, my set of beliefs are wrong. Our job is to look at those and say, which one makes more sense? Which one makes more sense?